Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Do-It-Yourself Folder Virtualization with Package Support Framework webinar. Thank you for being with us today. I am Christina, and I lead marketing initiatives here at Advanced Installer. In this session, my colleague Bogdan Mitrake will offer us a preview for a brand new feature in Advanced Installer, Folder Virtualization with PSF. That being said, I would like to introduce our presenter, Bogdan Mitrake, Product Manager at Advanced Installer. So, Bogdan, are you there?
I'm there.
You have the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to have you all here today. It's actually my first webinar from the real office that we have after almost 2 long years. Let me share my screen. And today I'm going to come back to one of our favorite topics in the last 2 years, and that's MSIX. And we have a lot of knowledge to sink in around MSIX. Microsoft is pushing MSIX as the future of application packaging, and the industry is taking notice. Maybe you've already seen the news last week or 2 weeks ago when Firefox announced their presence in the Microsoft Store and their new way of deploying Firefox as an MSIX packaging format. So it's not only hobby applications or small applications that are being deployed today as an MSIX, but we are seeing more and more applications. Even the sysinternals app from Microsoft we're still waiting for the Office suite to be packaged as MSIX, but hopefully Santa will bring us something maybe next year. As you know, Advanced Installer is the tool that supported MSIX technology from the very beginning. We've been the release partner with Microsoft in 2018. We've provided the Express Edition, which is itself packaged as an MSIX package and published in the Microsoft Store. And we're continuing to push the boundaries and to grow the support and the functionality of MSIX packaging on top of what Microsoft supports by default. Over this period, we've gained a lot of knowledge that we're trying to share, not only through these webinars, but also on our blog, where our colleagues engineers are sharing their experiences. So if you want to learn more about MSIX, just go to advancedinstaller.com/blog and subscribe there, and you'll find a lot more articles. Now let's go to our topic for today. So today I want to show you how an application package as an MSIX manages access to its data, mostly to its data from the AppData folder, but also to other settings in application data that might be stored in other folders, maybe in the root of your user profile, as we shall see in the demo that I have prepared for you today, or any other folder that's not a default choice for installing an application. Before this, Christina, can you help me with the poll and display our poll questions for today? I would like to see how many of you have tried to package and have packaged virtualized applications. So we're trying to give you some options like, hey, have you built MSIX packages in the past? Or have you done AppV maybe? Or haven't done any packaging at all? That would be very helpful for us to tune our messaging and to provide you better learning materials in the future. So thank you for helping us. Our agenda for today is going to be covering a small introduction on what the virtual file system is. This, for those of you that have done AppV packaging in the past, this is nothing new. If this is the first time you're doing investigating or learning how to package virtualized application, be it AppV or MSIX, this will be a bit of a journey to understand the different behavior of an application package as an MSIX, and so on. After that, we'll see how you can use the MSIX packaging tool to overcome some of the limitations or features, as Microsoft likes to call them, of this virtual file system, and also how you can use Advanced Installer much easier to solve the same challenges, and also many more also. And during this time, you'll also have the chance to see some of our free tools that we're using for troubleshooting. In Advanced Star, we have a couple of free tools that we've been developing in the last years, and they are available at advancedinstaller/tools for download, available for free, so you don't need a license for those. Okay, so from what I see here, the crowds are pretty packed, so kind of a quarter, everybody has experience, like almost half have experienced some MSIX packages, a quarter has done some FV packaging, and a little bit less have never used a virtualized application. So let's get started for today. And first, let me give you a quick overview of what we have inside an MSIX package. So basically what you could install with an MSI in the future, in the past and in the current present, are basically any resource that comes from the operating system. You can install services, registry, comms, fonts, shortcuts, and all the other resources from the machine, and execute a lot of custom code, as you all know. MSIX gives you access to most of all of these resources, but with some limitations, like services. For example, this was introduced almost a year ago. And since an MSIX package is installed in the context of a user, not a machine context, for installing services, you will need admin privileges to install a package, and the service itself will be installed outside of the package. And some other new concepts have been introduced, like the execution alias, because with an MSIX package, you can no longer access the real installation path of your application, since everything is virtualized under the virtual file system. For command line utilities, you need to define an execution alias, which is basically acting like a shortcut in the command line interface that will allow the operating system and other applications to call your executables as a command line tool. And all of these resources that you see here are defined actually in the main and the most important resource that is part of the of any MSIX package, and that's called the package manifest. That one is not depicted here because it's not actually a resource that your application needs. The application needs a service or a registry or a file. It doesn't care about how the package itself is built inside. In the package manifest, which is actually an XML file, you will define the properties of all of these resources. You'll define the IDs of your comps, the name of your execution alias or of your service, rules for accessing your registry inside or outside of the MSIX container, and so on. And even you will also there define your shortcuts, even if those are not called shortcuts anymore inside of an MSIX package. These are what Microsoft now is calling an application. So every entry point in your package is an application, but we'll refer to them as shortcuts to make it easier for you to make the transition from MSI to MSIX. For today, we'll be focusing a little bit more on the files part from your package and the virtual file system. And what actually this is. So when you create an MSI, you add a set of files into a package and you instruct the MSI to install those files in a set of folders. You can say in program files / your folder, your application, in the system folder, and so on. With MSIX, this is different because every MSIX package gets installed into the same folder all the time. Of course, with a subfolder dedicated for each application. So on any Windows machine, you will get a folder that's called program files / Windows apps. And in that folder, you'll find all the MSIX packages that were installed on that machine, with a folder for each application that was available on the machine. And inside those folders, you will find a list of folders like these ones, among other custom folders that your application might resource. So the folders from the middle column are the ones that are mapped by the virtual file system to the known locations that you know from the system, like If you have a package that is installing files under the system x64 folder and the program files x64 folder, those will actually be installed into your package under program files / Windows apps / my app name /VFS and /program files x86 or VFS /684. So all the folders that you see in this list, and if you have files in those folders in your application, these folders will be actually created as a subfolder of your installation package. And every time your application is trying to load a file from those folders, it will be redirected by the system automatically to load the resources from these files. For the application, this is completely transparent. So that's the magic of the virtual file system of the VFS. The application is not aware that it's actually is reading those files from a different location. And this worked very well without you having to change any code in your application, as long as you are using the folders from this list. The problem appears when you have folders outside of this list. So what happens if you want to load something from or to write something in the root of our user profile folder or in AppData and so on? And are we here in the VFS or are we no longer in the VFS? Is the application redirected or not? Because, for example, if you're trying to write a file on the desktop folder or to read it, your application will not redirect anything. We'll just go on the desktop and try to write or load the file, depending on the operation. And things are changing here today. If you have only files under the AppData folder, the application will go into a redirected AppData folder from the machine, but it will not look inside the files that you have in your package. So if you're trying to deploy an application that is using customized AppData setting, like for example, in our demo today, we'll have an application from Cisco that is storing some proxy settings in a config.json file. And that's a file from the AppData folder. And if you're trying to deploy that file with your application, you will build a package, you will install the file, and if you're searching for that file in program files / Windows apps / your application name, you will find the file there, but your application will not see it when it's going to run, because the operating system will see that you're trying to load a file from AppData and automatically ignore everything that's installed, because it's not considering, if you check this list once again, you'll see that AppData is not part of this list, as long as also other folders. So basically, your application will either create a new default configuration file if it knows that to do that, or it will crash saying, hey, I can't find my settings. Hopefully you won't get to that change. So let's have a look at some demos and see how you can first find the list of applications from your repository that are in this situation, and then how you could you fix the packages to prevent this from affecting the way your application behaves at runtime. So for the first part of our demo, we're going to use a free tool that our team has been developing. It's called the MSIX Tweaker, and this is a command line interface tool. You can go to advancedinstaller.com/MSIX Tweaker and download it. The version that I'm going to demo today, it's not yet online available, but the previous versions are available. So what I'm showing you today is actually done with a preview version of Advanced Installer and of MSIX Tweaker that will be released somewhere next week. And this tool allows you to operate and to update different packages. So you can modify from the command line and add a file or a registry in a set of packages. You can also interrogate packages and see if a package contains a certain file and so on, and handle that result as you like. So for my demo today, first I'll show you how we are going to look at a single package. So let's say we have an MSIX package and we want to see if that file is installing something in AppData or not. One way would be to just right-click on the package and edit it with MSIX packaging tool or with Advanced Installer and look at the list of files from the package, but that's time-consuming and you need to do it manually for them. And another way would be to automate this with a tool that just looks at any package from a folder you're giving. So basically, our tweaker has a command line that's called validate VFS, and basically it's extracting your MSIX package and returning a return code different from 0 if that package is containing resources that are part of folders which are not virtualized by the system automatically. It will also give you the list of folders and files that are in those locations if you need it, but you can also configure it to stop giving you this list. So for example, here I've just run the command for a single package. This is not very scalable, but if you use the following script, it's just 10 lines of scripts that I have here in PowerShell, ignoring the empty lines. I'll share this after the session, and you'll get the details in the link. Basically, you can call the MSIX tweaker over a folder that contains your packages. Here I have like 10 gigabytes of packages that I've scanned in about 15 minutes before this session. And this folder, this script will give you a result, something like this one. So basically, I've run my PowerShell script. It's the MSIX tweaker went through all of the packages that I had in that folder, and it detected that 15 packages from that folder were containing resources, and it's just listing me the paths for those packages. So now I can get this path, and I can get the list of these packages and start going through each of them and fixing them manually. Now, this is going to happen if you have packages created with MSIX packaging tool or other tools outside of Advanced Installer. From what we know of, they're not handling in any way this set of resources that are outside of the VFS list of known folders. With Advanced Installer, until today, we were automatically migrating everything that you had in AppData. Starting next week with the new version of 18.9, every time you repackage an application or you create an MSIX build into an existing project, if we detect that you have files in any of the folders that we know to not be virtualized by the system, we will automatically include redirection rules, just as I will show you. I will add them manually in today's demos, but if you do a package from scratch with Advanced Installer, those fix-ups should be automatically included in the package. And if they are not included in the package, every time you build that package in Advanced Installer, you will get a warning informing you that those resources might not be available to your application at runtime. So let's first see how we can fix our application with the packaging tool. So the idea to fixing an application that doesn't have access to the resources from its AppData or UserProfile folder is using an implementation of the PSF and our integration that we have in Advanced Installer with it. But first, I'll explain the basics. So what PSF does, the Package Support Framework, for those of you that hasn't used it, is an open source project from Microsoft that allows you to fix applications that are not running in compatibility with MSIX container. And this is recommended only for applications that are no longer under active development. If your application is still under active development, then you should take the actions and fix or improve your code for the applications to behave as expected in the container. But if you don't have access to the source code, or the application is old enough so it can't be modified anymore, then you probably need the package support framework to either redirect simple API calls, for example, an application trying to write into a log file in the installation folder, or simply accessing settings that are in other locations outside of AppData, or maybe, as you'll see the case today, the settings are deployed in the AppData folder of the package, but the application can't see them because they are not copied from the package on the real AppData locations from the machine. So what we will do is basically first show you how you can manually fix this with the packaging tool from Microsoft. And in that case, what you have to do is to manually include the package support framework in any package that has the problem. I'm saying this manually because Microsoft doesn't provide any integration for the packaging support framework with the packaging tool. So you will just have to do manually the step that I'm going to show you. And after you integrate the package support framework tools in your MSIX package, you need to configure a script that basically is a PowerShell script that informs the packaging support framework to copy some files from one location, and that is from the install location of your package to a location where you choose to redirect your files. That can be either into a private location, as we are recommending the packages folder, or it can be directly on the real location where your application is expecting. So by the packages folder, I'm referring to this folder here, and it's every Windows 10 machine in Windows 11 will have these folders under your users, username, AppData, local packages, and basically each application that is installed as an MSIX will have its own folder. Here in the case, my Cisco app has a folder, and its AppData is redirected here, and everything else. The problem is that if I install the application with the default settings without using the package support framework, I won't have in this AppData folder, I won't have a copy of the settings of the files that I included in the AppData folder in my package. And that's where the package support framework comes in and helps you to copy those from the installation folder and allows the application to access them. In the case of AppData, you just need to copy them. If you have files in a different folder, as we will see with the user profile folder, then you either need to copy and also inform the package support framework to always perform a redirection. So every time your app is trying to load that file, instead of loading it from its path, you will redirect it and give it serve the file from a different location. And let me get back to my demo. So let me show you how you can get the packaging tool and edit your package. So I have here the packaging tool. I'm going to edit one of my sample packages, and should be here. Let's get this one. Okay. So with the packaging tool from Microsoft, you can see the list of files that you have in the package. And this is one way, time-consuming way, but this is one way through which you can check if you have files that end up in local AppData or user profile or anything else in your package, as you can see here in my case. So this package is installing files in both under local AppData, also directly in the profile root folder. So even if the files will be installed on machine, as I said, my application will not be able to read them. And here I have the application installed. And if I'm launching the application, basically in one of those configuration files is just a setting that is telling my application which are the proxy settings. So let's see, this my app launched. Okay, let's wait for the application to launch. It seems that Cisco is a little bit, okay. I already had the application running. So my application has some proxy settings that would expect to be reading from the package that I've built. But in this case, because those settings are not copied from the machine, from the installation folder in the location where the application is expecting to see them, the application simply created a default empty file with no preferences in it. So what I want to do today is to get the packaging tool first and to teach the package how to copy those resources and to make them available for our application. So the first thing is that you need to add inside your package files the resources of your PSF resources. And these are basically all the resources that you'll need most of the time with PSF. So you need the PSF launcher, executable, and the runtime. The launcher will basically act as an entry point for your application. So instead of launching your application every day, the users will actually launch this launcher, which in turns is checking if the files are available and then does a launch of your application. It needs some libraries and also the file redirection fix-up if you need to do a file redirection. As I said, if you're copying files anywhere else outside that data folder, you'll need to also redirect the API calls. And for my demo today, we also have the config.json, which this JSON file, let me give you a sample here. It's basically instructing the PSF launcher what to do. So in the first phase, if you just need to copy the files from the package under the AppData location, then you will need to create a PowerShell script. It's a 2-line PowerShell script that you see here. Basically, you're telling it the source path, and unfortunately, in this case, it's a hard-coded path. But this is one of the reasons that you have to spend a lot of time and manually create each package with the packaging tool, because there is actually no integration to help you copy files out from the package into a different location and so on. And this part is informing the PSF launcher to execute the PowerShell script on the right and copy my files. And if you are also copying files outside of our data, you also need to include this part into your PowerShell script, which is basically instructing the PSF launcher to always perform a file redirection when the application is trying to load files from our folder. In this case, is the folder from the user root profile. So now you have to take all of these files and add them inside your application, inside your package. And if you look here, you can see the files have been added into the package and some of them here and so on. And now after you've added the file in the package, we need to get back to the package manifest. As I said, this is the core information that describes how your package behaves. Think of it as the MSI tables from an MSI package. So basically, this is how you define. This is where you define all the resources installed by our package. And here, for example, is where we are defining the entry point, basically the shortcut of your package. And currently, the manifest is pointing toward nwv.exe. It's the main executable from Cisco. But in our case, since we've added the framework, we need to inform it and let me zoom out and update it to PSF launcher.32exe. So basically, every time the user is launching the application, he will launch this executable from the package support framework, and the executable at its own turn will launch the application after it does the appropriate fixes that we needed to do. So once you do that, you save this XML file and you save the package. And that's it. You have a package that is going to behave as you've expected. As you've seen, this is quite a lot of manual work. And the problem is that anytime you will make a mistake with one of the config.jsons file or the PowerShell script or something, you need to basically repeat all the steps. And that's not very pleasant when you have tens, hundreds of packages. So first, now let me show you how you can do the same with Advanced Installer. So here I have the same package. I've repackaged it with Advanced Installer. We can see the list of files from the package. We have the nwv executable that we've had in there. And we also have the user profile resources that we had here. We have some resources under local application data. And we also have some resources under Cisco. And this is a folder created directly under the root of our user profile. These two folders will be included in the package, but those folders will not be accessible, as I said, when the application is running. So if we build this package here, let me do it one more time so you can see the warning was already in the build, but I want you guys to see it for real. You will get this warning here. And let's zoom in a little bit. And the warning is saying that the following folders, AppData, CLI, and the user profile / Cisco need a folder redirection fix-up. And you will see this error only if you don't have the fix-up already included in the package. And I'm saying this because Advanced Installer will include the fix-up automatically every time you create a package the first time with the repackager, or every time you're going to add an MSIX build in builds page. So for those of you that didn't know, with Advanced Installer, you are always working on a project file. You're not working directly on the package. You can also edit the package directly if you want to, but our recommended way is to work directly with the project because it's faster and it gives you more options. For example, if the application doesn't behave okay as an MSIX, you can go on and build it as an MSI. And Now, in this case, it's giving us those warnings. You can either go to Issues pane and say, hey, I want to fix this warning, and just press the Fix It button. Or you can go manually to our AppCompat view and add them manually. So here you can see them. These have been added automatically by the tool. But let's say they weren't here in the package. So you just want to go to New Folder, Redirection Fix-Up, select the folder that you want. In this case, the Cisco, and select it. And it's the same thing that, was done automatically in the application. So you can do either way, the result would be the same. And you have two options here. One is to redirect to a safe location. And that safe location is the packages folder that I've showed you earlier. It's this one. So basically, we will redirect, we will copy and redirect all the calls to this folder, no matter which folder is in the package. If it's AppData, the redirection takes care of it automatically. We just need to copy the resources from the package there. But if it's the root user profile folder, we need to copy the file, and every time the application is running, we need to redirect any API calls to that file into its appropriate folder from the packages location. So we can just say redirect to real folder. So in this case, if we choose this option, the file will simply be copied from the Windows apps from program file / Windows apps. Will be copied directly under my user root location. So in this case, let me delete these files from our demo application and reinstall a fixed application one more time. So, okay, let's delete them. And let this one build a package, but while this is building it, I think I already have a built one. So let's also install it. Let's uninstall it first. I'll install this one. Launch the installer one more time. This package has about 200 or 300 megabytes, so it's taking a little bit to build it, depending on how many files you have in it, 1 or 2 minutes, and how fast your machine is it. But while that one is building, we can install and have a look at this application. Haven't I deleted this one? Okay, now it should be deleted. So our application is installing, and up until this point, nothing is different. The Windows installer, Windows operating system gets the MSIX, is installing it on the machine, and now the different part is that when the application is launching, we are actually not executing nwv.exe, the main application. We are executing that PSF launcher, or in the case of packages created with advanced installer, you will see that the name of that launcher is actually AI_stub. That's a custom name that you've approached because we were actually implementing something similar before Microsoft released the packaging support framework. And if we check the settings of our application, you will see that now the application was installed and pre-configured with our proxy settings from the package. So these are not the default package, and you can also find those copied directly on the machine here. Let's see if you can have a look here in this area. So these are the settings that are loaded by the application, our proxy host and port and so on, and the protocol. So up until today, we were doing this, as I said, only for files that were part of the AppData folder. And we were doing this automatically without any user permission, without anything, because there was no case through which your application could have access to these files. But starting the next version, we will include automatic fix-ups that you can also customize. And you can also extend to other locations from your package, as it was the case for this root folder, from this user profile root folder, or any other locations that your application might have. And now comes the question, how often do you think you will need to fix this? And to be honest, I wasn't suspecting to see that many applications, but I was surprised. After I've run the MSIX troubleshooter over a couple of tens of packages that we have in our internal repositories, package that we've tested or packages from our customers, we've seen that about 2/3 of those packages contain customized resources. Most of them are indeed under AppData folder. So in that case, you will just need to configure the first part of the PSF launcher where you just inform it to copy the files. And that's it. You don't have to do any redirection. If you're just copying the files installed by the package into the packages folder, respective for your application, there should be no problem. But there are other apps from those 64% that also install in different locations, as you've seen, UserProfile and other locations that are not known to the virtual file system. So in most of those cases, it means that your app will either won't be able to see those default settings, or your customized settings, or it might crash sometimes if the app was not written correctly, because it doesn't find those files. And as I've showed you, all the PSF integration, because basically anything that's custom executed next to an application package as an MSIX can only be done through the PSF integration. And our main integration with the package support framework lies mostly in the AppCompat view. That's from where you can trace an application. If something is not working correctly, you can add manually any fix-up, like a file redirection, a folder redirection, or any of the other fix-up. You can configure it to execute PowerShell scripts when your application is launching or closing. Or you can also create your own custom fix-up if you want and add it in the package following Microsoft documentation. If I didn't mention this, the package support framework is available on the GitHub repository, on Microsoft's GitHub repository. And let's do a quick review of what we've discussed today. So basically, every time you create an MSIX package, you should check if you have anything in your user profile folder. If it's AppData, if it's directly under the root of your user profile, or if you even have anything else in other folders. That's even much rare situation that's much more rarely encountered, but it might happen that you have an application that's just installing something directly on the root partition of the installation of the OS installation or some other location, and that will never be virtualized. So all those files, you need to handle them somehow. Otherwise, the application will not be see them. And as we've shown, our default is to redirect those packages to the packages folder because it's safe and it's always cleaned up by the system during uninstall. But if you need to share that information, those settings with maybe other applications and so on, then you need to put them in the real folder from the machine. Otherwise, those will not be visible. I didn't mention this already, but any folder from the packages folder, any application folder from there is available only to your application. So no other application can go in and query what you have into your packages folder, be it settings or whatever registry you have stored in there. One other trick that you could do is that if you are lucky and you have an application that's well designed by your developers. For example, this one from Cisco is actually well designed. So in this case, the settings file that I'm modifying and customizing, and this request came from a customer, is also present in the as a default version into the installation folder. So it's also present here. And basically the application, what it does is if it doesn't find anything under AppData, it's going to take this template here from the installation folder and copy it into the AppData folder. And this might save you from using the package support framework altogether, because all you have to do is to replace the settings in these files with the ones that you want to be the new default for your end users, and leave the application do its job, because the moment the application will launch, it will not find anything under AppData, since the package doesn't, since the operating system doesn't show anything that's available, and it will copy what is inside of its program files equivalent folder, because this is the program files folder. This is not the file that's located under user profile folder. But this is a much more rare situation. Most of the times you won't be this lucky. And as I said, you can do this with both advanced installer, which is easy and fast, or you can also use the free version of the packaging tool from Microsoft, but you need more time and sometimes more stress because things don't work as expected when you don't have any built-in integration. And all of the details that I've showed you today in the demo is also available at this link, advancedinstaller.com/VFS files management on our blog. I've shared the article a few weeks ago, and we're going to be updating it with this recorded video once it's ready. If you want to learn more about the PackSupport framework, check out our article, and it's also including a webinar on the PackSupport framework introduction. And also don't forget to download our MSIX packaging fundamental books that I've written together with Tim and Kevin, and also the free tools that we are offering, like the MSIX Packager, the MSIX Tweaker, and the MSIX Troubleshooter. And now I'm going to open this for questions. Let's see what questions we have today. Q&A. So I have a question from Douglas. Does Advanced Installer have a roadmap for moving a WVF app from MSI to MSIX? Thank you for the question, Douglas. There is no actual predefined roadmap that we or the MSIX packaging tool or any other tool can give you from moving an app. It doesn't matter if you wrote in the app with WVF or it's C++ using WTL or any kind of app. Basically, you need to think a little bit lower. There is a list of recommendations and restrictions from Microsoft with what regards what you can do inside of an MSIX container. For example, most of the time you don't have user machine access, so don't try to access registry in the local HKey current local machine, HKey local machine Hive. Try to avoid using services if you can. If not, you will be able to install a service with your application, but that's not the best experience. From my experience, if you have services, it's better to still deploy your application as an MSI and to make sure that everything is running accordingly with your users. Hopefully, Microsoft will improve the support for services in MSIX or not. But there is a list from Microsoft with what an application can and cannot do. Even, for example, the .NET version that you can target. I don't know that by heart, but there is a specific version of .NET that you can target inside your application, under which you cannot package your application as an MSIX. We will share this list. It's already linked in my MSIX introduction article. I've linked to this link, but I don't have the link right now available, so I can't share it in the chat. But we will share this link in when we'll share also the recording of this webinar with you guys. So thank you, Douglas. Okay, one question from Pascal Becher. When you implement the PSF, do you use the official version from Microsoft or do you have your own version? And do you have the plans to use the version Tim Mangan is now maintaining? Thank you, Pascal. So we started using our own custom version before the PSF was actually released by Microsoft, because there was no support for command line parameters or setting a working directory for your application. We had to basically implement our own launcher. The moment Microsoft announced it, we then forked their own PSF, but also added on top of that our own additional functionalities. Because as you've seen, there is a lot of manual work that you need to do with the PSF. So in order to integrate the automation from our UI, we had to extend the one from Microsoft. But underneath, the bits that work are basically using the latest version of the PSF, which until 2 weeks ago was also the one where Tim was contributing. Now Tim announced that due to the complexity of always pushing changes was taking too much to push changes into the Microsoft repository. He decided to go on its own and maintain its own version. We are closely monitoring both repositories, and we always integrate. So I think the registry fix-up that you've seen here are the ones that actually Tim contributed to the repository. So we've always been open to include as many fix-up as the community is making available, and there is no restriction as long as they are released under the open source code that allows us a license that allows us to integrate them. We will integrate into Advanced Installer. But if you have a fix-up that maybe it's done by Tim, and in the meantime we haven't done a release, or it's done by someone else, you just go to custom define and you say new custom fix-up. You select your DLL, and that's it. You add it into your package, and you're off to go. There's no need to stop using other styles. So there's nothing from blocking you to use any of the new fix-ups available online. I have a question here. Okay. Terry from Cox is asking if our product can be used for open source apps. And my colleague already shared the link for this. We're offering a free license for open source products. So just check out the link included at advancedinstaller.com/free license. And if your project is compatible with our terms, then you will get a free license for our commercial edition, and you can use it to package your open source apps. I think those are most of the questions. Are there any other questions that I've missed? Hi from Canada. Hi, Joe. Thank you for passing by. Well, I think that's it all for today. If you have more questions, you can always write us at support@advancedinstaller.com, or you can comment other articles that we're sharing on our blog, and we will gladly answer them. You can also find us on Twitter and on Reddit, and just email us whenever you have. You don't need to have a license or to be a user of Advanced. We are always interested into learning about how you plan to package your application and what are the challenges that you are encountering. So feel free to email us anytime you want. So Douglas, if you have more specific details of your application, just email us at support@advancedinstaller.com, and we will gladly try to help you to migrate. Oh, there are two more questions from Mike. The first question: do you think service and drivers will ever work as MSIX? If not, we will never truly move away from legacy installers. So currently, Microsoft statement regards to machine resources, because it doesn't apply that much to services anymore, since they kind of opened the gate there, is that they don't have any plans to include more support. So drivers is out of the questions for them at the moment. They say all drivers should be deployed via the Microsoft Store or inside the image. And services, as you've all known, there is a limited support for service in the package. So moving away from legacy installers now depends how you look at legacy installers. If those are non-MSI based installers, that shouldn't be a problem. You should move away from non-MSI installers. But MSI versus MSIX, I think they'll still be here for a long term. And the case of hybrid environments where you will choose the best tool that fits the challenge will be a solution going forward. There are cases where MSIX is much suitable and doesn't have any limitation. There are cases, and I've seen even under Azure Virtual Desktop, where an MSI gives you a better performance with your logon times, with your network loading, and so on. So it depends on your application, but I would say that there is no one bulletproof solution with Microsoft, as we've all come to learn in the last decades. And then the second question: Oh, it's the same question posted to time. No, sorry, no problem, Mike. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you all for joining us. And as I said, if you have any more questions, feel free to email us at support@advancedinstaller.com and stay tuned for our next webinars. And happy holidays if you don't have anything planned for December. Nothing is on the roadmap yet.